Mm, All right. Can you guys hear me all right? We're good. Mic check one, two. Okay. Chapter two. There is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. Uh, I think I spoke last week on this. This was the first page that I actually looked at when I actually opened the book. It took me a long time to open it because I thought it was way too big. Uh, I remember weeping and I remember crying and I remember finally, I guess, a spirit of hope inside of me, you could say. I felt like there's hope for me. Sitting in a rehab, can't stop, don't trust myself, don't even want to walk outside. Told other people to make decisions for me because I don't trust myself. And I opened this book and it says it right there there is a solution, singular. Um, we have a way out. Um, and it says nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. I mean, I don't even know how to explain this, but this program works. And I never thought it would. And I never really actually believed that writing inventory or talking to people in my fifth step about what I wrote on my inventory or making amends for the damage done in my past or prayer meditation, none of that would actually help me because I thought the solution was lock me up, uh, throw away the key. I no longer live in that bondage anymore. I'm no longer a slave to that anymore. I'm a free person today. I have recovered. And I've been given the opportunity and the chance and the privilege to help other people. Um, I'm in a recovered state of being, but that does not mean I could stay in that recovered state. I could become unrecovered, and it's happened in sobriety, where I've had the obsession come back because I didn't want to do amends. That was my big bugaboo, right? But when I made these approaches, all of a sudden I stopped thinking about drinking, and I had a realization or awareness, like, whoa, this actually works. Um, so if you're new here and you can't stop or you're high or you're drunk on this meeting, we got a way out, you know. Well, yeah, we have a way up and we have a way out. And I think the group chat is still open. If anyone is new here, I highly recommend that you put your number in the chat. Um, don't collect our numbers, right? And when was the last time you called someone? In the beginning of recovery, someone gave me all these numbers, and I'll just never call them, or I'll be too scared shitless to call them, right? You put your number in the chat, we approach you, all right? We're gonna approach you and we're gonna help you. And this isn't like a hierarchy. It's not me standing on a spiritual mountaintop saying hallelujah. We do this together. Little do you know that you're helping me, then you know. Um, so yeah, back to you, Paige.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's the most miraculous thing. What you were talking about is like, man, we don't, if you're like me, which you are, Terry, but the rest of you, like, I didn't think this thing was going to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't come here thinking, oh boy, I can't wait to have a spiritual solution. I'm just so excited about God and inventory. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I was skeptical. But what I always like to emphasize, especially with very simply the title, is that there is a solution. I'm not going to go on the A thing right now because we spoke about that last week. And I know I spoke about this last week as well. But I want to emphasize there is. If you're high, if you're drunk, if you're a couple days in, if you're, man, a couple weeks in, if you're a couple years in and you're miserable and this thing is on you, if you feel like you're a chronic relapser and there's no way that there's a solution for somebody like you. Or you've been sober well, you got those problems that are piling up, and you think, man, there's no option for somebody like me. What I want to emphasize is there is a solution. We have one. It goes on to say we of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to talk about the we because the we was originally a generous reference to the first 100. It was 80, you know what I mean? And it was a little like overreaching in that. But here's my experience is that the more of us that follow the directions that are outlined in this book, the more of us that follow these directions and have the experiences that are promised in the book, the more of us that are included in the we. I get to be a part of the we because Thierry talks about how this is a book of mirrors. I can see myself as we discuss the illness of addiction or alcoholism or whatever brings you to the study. But as we talk about the promises and the solution and the hope, and as I have recovered, I get to see myself in that as well. So I get to become a part of a we. And I always want to emphasize the juxtaposition, which is a very Paige word, the stark contrast between thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. You see, to be hopeless is to be aware of the reality of the predicament that I find myself in, that I have an allergy of the body, that what that means is once I start, I can't control the amount that I take. But truly, what makes me hopeless is I have an obsession of the mind, a thought that happens when I'm as sober as I am today that takes me back again and again and again to the first drink, drug, hoot, hit, pill, snort, compulsive behavior, whatever brings you back to this study. That I go back to it again and again and again, despite the fact that I know it is destroying my life. And that is the hopelessness of my illness. And here's the hope when it says nearly all have recovered. Recovered, not cured, but recovered. And to be recovered is where the obsession is removed. That thought is taken from me. It's gone. I don't have it anymore. And it doesn't go by wishing or trying or hopes and dreams or, hanging around. It leaves as the result of the 12 steps. And that's what's on offer, recovered. Not just white knuckle sobriety. I'm not getting drunk or high just for today. Oh, you know what I mean? I'm talking about the problem is removed. You can have a cigarette next to me if you want. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go up like kindling. You know what I mean? I'm not a safety hazard. Well, I am, but for other reasons, not because of fire safety, because I'm spiritually dry. And it says they have solved the drink problem. Solution, not one day at a time. Now I got to work the solution one day at a time. And the solution that I have found is a spiritual awakening, and how I get it is the result of the 12 steps. So diving into that next paragraph, it says, we are average Americans. So this is referring to sort of the first 180, because they're average Americans. I'm a below average Canadian, so completely does not apply apply to me. you know, uh, listen, our money, it's got birds on it and moose, and we got polar bears. We actually got polar bears on our money, so yeah, that's what we got. So average Americans, all sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix. Now, when this book was first published, it was about 80 white dudes and one gal. It was, and they're like middle aged, and they're hanging out. And we are on page 17, second paragraph. We don't go far quickly. Do you know what I mean? So glad you're here. Welcome. Uh, and that is a line that in the forwards it talks about that this is a line forward to the fourth edition that is prophetic. Like this is a line that has become more and more true as time has gone on. We are people hanging out on Zoom on a Friday night or very, very early Saturday morning for some of you. Thanks for coming. You know what I mean? And all over the world, different ages, different backgrounds, different experiences. And because this is an all inclusive study, different illnesses. Do you know what I mean? And we are people who normally would not mix. Especially true because I'm not really a whole lot of fun to hang out with when I'm in my active addiction. It's debatable about whether I'm fun to hang out with when I'm sober, but I'm telling you, I am not a delight when I'm drinking and smoking crack, which I know is a shock to all of you. Just a disaster. All right. So it says, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. And my hope is that when you came to the fellowship that most fits you, that you had that gift of identification, that you were able to see, man, these are people who are like me. And they're not acting like how I'm acting. They've got that light and that freedom. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. She's the best. We just love her. And that idea that like there is this beautiful connection that's made very, very quickly. And it is indescribably wonderful. Like we're not going to bash the fellowship. The fellowship is a beautiful thing. To feel that feeling of I'm not alone, to feel that feeling like I'm home. But if that's all I do and I have this illness, I'm not going to stay sober. So it goes on to say we are like people. We are like the passengers of a great liner, the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. So the reference that they're very literally making is the Titanic, not the 1997 James Cameron movie, but I am going to talk about that. Uh, it was two VHS tapes. Those that know that was two VHS tapes. Some of you are like, what is that? And hopefully, if you don't know what a VHS tape is, or even like a cassette tape, you're not tempted to try to play the tape to the end because that doesn't work for people like us. Uh, yeah, see what I mean? See what I mean? If I try to use that outdated, oh man, this is it. I am so sorry, Tara. I didn't plan to go on this tangent. If I try to use outdated technology, it doesn't work. For those of you that remember those portable CD players, and you try to walk with them or you try to go on a run with them, and what happened? It'd bump and it would skip. That's a strange mental blank spot. See, I can't use that outdated technology. I need the power of God, which could be the MP3 file. I don't know. I haven't really thought this metaphor all the way through, which is a shock to no one. Uh, so when it talks about we are like the passengers of the great liner the moment after rescue from shipwreck, what they're talking about is the survivors of the Titanic disaster. Now, this book went out to the world published in April of 1939, and the Titanic sunk in 1912. And the reason I point that out is because this is a disaster that was of somewhat recent memory, but not so close that it was a little touchy. Do you know what I mean? It was, oh yeah, when a great liner, yeah. And what happened is the survivors of the Titanic would do this thing that people in rehab do. Bear with me with this. That idea, like I didn't go to rehab because I didn't think I was that bad. Everyone else in my life was convinced, but people in rehab, we do that thing where it's like, we're going to be friends forever. We're going to go on sober camping. We're going to hang out. We're going to do friendship bracelets. I don't know. I didn't get to go. But we're going to be friends. And that's what the survivors were like. We hung together. We stuck together because we went through this thing. But what happened for you guys who were in rehab together? There was a falling apart, a drifting away. Do you talk to many or any of the people you went to rehab with? Odds are probably not. And so it talks about that idea that like, oh, I love that people are connecting in the chat. That's delightful. Sorry, I don't have ADHD. It's weird that you think I do. But that's that idea that if all I have is a common problem, I'm not going to stick together. If that's all I have. And what we need is a deeper than that. So when it talks about joyousness, camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table, Steerage would be like Jack down in the very bottom of the ship and captain's table. Oh, we're on page 17. It's completely reasonable you didn't know where we were because we're about to go on a heavy James Cameron tangent. And then I really got to turn it over to Terry. Because, but so captain's table is Rose. And what it's saying about that is that any human being, regardless of socioeconomic class, can be an alcoholic or can be an addict or to have whatever illness brings you to the study. Steerage to captain's table. We're all equal in this thing. By that same token, any single one of us can recover. And it goes on to say that feeling of having shared in a common, sorry, I skipped over it. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. Our common peril is our problem: physical allergy, mental obsession. And often we hear, oh, we're here because we got like common problem, common problem, common problem. But I cannot stay well on common problem. What we're going to see is I need a common solution and program of action. Now, just quick James Cameron tangent, then over to Terry. Sometimes people will be like, there was enough room on the door for Jack. It wasn't about space. It was about buoyancy. Buoyancy was the issue. That's not a hill I'm dying on, though. A hill that I'm a little bit more likely to die upon, and this happened when I was working with a sponsee who explained to me how destructive the movie Titanic was in his personal relationships. Do not model your sex, or do what you want. Don't listen to me. But do not model your sex ideal after the movie Titanic. It is not a good idea. I'm just going to throw it out there. Rose, she was engaged to another man. He wasn't a good man. I'm not saying that, but she was engaged to another man. She's not physically available to be in a relationship. I don't know if you remember, she was about to throw herself off the boat into the North Atlantic. Relatable. I've been there. I had a grippy sock vacation or two. She was about to toss herself. All I'm going to say is that she is not emotionally or spiritually available to be in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have the capacity to have the give and take and communication skills that is required. Then they have a torrid, codependent love affair. Get it? Who hasn't? But then it ends with him sacrificing himself and dying. We can aim a little healthier, is all I'm going to say. And I'm going to toss it over to Terry. Over to you. Pew pew.
I was enjoying your tangents. Thank you, Paige. I mean, they're doing a great job of describing the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had a friend give me the definition of fellowship, and it said it's a union of friends and equals. Um, but I like that line at the end. It says, "But that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined." So, us going to meetings or us talking about our problems is fantastic, but our cement has two parts to it. It has our common problem, which is our fellowship meetings, you could say. Then there's our common solution is the other part. Problem is if I'm just going to meetings and I think that's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, most likely my cement is not going to hold itself. My foundation is not going to hold itself. That's actually funny. I had this in my previous books. On the bottom of this page, I wrote, meetings by themselves do not keep me sober. I'm someone who actually needs something more than a meeting. I'm actually someone who is way too sick to stay off of the fellowship and the fellowship only. But being part of the fellowship is indescribably wonderful. I can't describe it. It's the first thing that I noticed when I came in, and that's why I see a lot of new people putting their numbers in the chats. Thank you for doing that as well. We're going to give you a call. We're going to have conversations with you. We're going to have fellowship. We're a union of friends and equals. We're going to trudge. We're going to walk this path together. All right. We'll be trudge buddies and etc. But I like what they talked about with that ship, right? I mean, she was talking, Paige was talking about the Titanic and stuff like that. I mean, one of the main means of transportation back then was by boat, right? And picture us all on a boat right now, right? And then say, you got the VIP, which is the captain's table, and then the steerage is like the lowest of the low class, right? There's third class, and then there's the steerage, right? And that ship is going down, right? That ship is going down, Paige. And me and say Elon Musk or Bill Gates, we're about to jump off this bad boy and jump into the water, right? Then we're both in the water. We have a common peril. That's our commonality, right? And that's why I recommend if you are part of this study, whatever, we don't care. This is all inclusive. This is something that's not AA, it's not NA, it's not CA, not anything like that. But it's incredibly important to find out if I am the real alcoholic or am I a real addict or am I both or am I neither. I saw someone put in that they had problems with sugar, whatever it was, whatever your problem is, right? You go through this study or go through this workshop and you have a vital spiritual experience and you go to your particular fellowship that you have a commonality with, a common problem with, and you make that fellowship strong. All right. I mean, I've never even heard of Cocaine Anonymous until I actually walked into a CA meeting and I was like, holy crap, everyone's calling themselves recovered addicts. I'm like, what is this witchcraft? Like, where'd this come from? Right. Or Drug Addicts Anonymous, another one. Right. And they are very strong because of people who use the big book as their basic text, which is the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which we actually went through when we went to the table of contents. Right. But being part of the fellowship, I said it before, is not going to keep me sober. It's like kind of a negative promise, you could say, right? It's a powerful cement. I have to have what is called that common solution. And I highly recommend, I mean, I remember I used to go to meetings and have make the topic be a common solution. You get like 1,000 different answers, right? Here's the common solution. You guys could write it all down. It's a spiritual experience. That is our common solution. It's really simple. All right. Also, our common solution as God is. It is also the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is our common solution. That's why it says, carry this message. What message? The message is the book. So actually bring your books to class. Yeah, I don't like to bring my books to class. I never liked school, but hey, you're in class right now. Bring it to class. But I want to talk about that second part of the cement because I want to talk about this foundation that I'm standing on today, which is an unshakable foundation and not an unstoppable force can't move it. You can't penetrate it. I'm still on standing on this foundation today, a free man. And it's right here. It says the tremendous fact. Fact means proven to be true for every one of us, every one of the first 180 page and one woman of us is that we have discovered a common solution. That is our second part of our cement. We have a way out that we could absolutely agree upon which we could join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. I want to talk about this common solution that all of us have, and you notice it with the people who are lit up. You notice that there's some people that are just different in a meeting. I mean, you go to a meeting, you hear someone talk, they got 30. I mean, I used to go to meetings in the fellowship and they're 30 plus years. And I was like, that's the guy. That's the guy. He got 30 years. I want what he has because he had a number. But he was talking about the principles behind the steps. Don't drink, go to meetings. But what is it? Put the plug in the jug and all that other stuff, which is great recommendations for specific moments in your sobriety. But it is not the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is not the common solution. I thought I want what that person had, but I don't want what that person's had because I already got it. I already have this God that's within me, that God is. And I go through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous or the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have a revelatory experience where I become delighted, where the light shines within me and outside of me as well, where you get to see people like Howard or Stan or Paige. Definitely Paige, you're on a 10 tonight, right? You get to see Paige, right? Go into these meetings, and she's not like, I love what she just said. Like if you're smoking a cigarette or she's not gonna burn up. Like, no, if you put alcohol or drugs in front of us right now, we are not going to think about drinking or drugging. We're like, it's like whatever to us. It's like, all right, thanks. I'm good. It doesn't, the problem has been removed from us. right? It no longer is an issue. I'm chilling in the place of neutrality, that place that I'm safe and protected. And I didn't put myself there, right? I was placed in that position based on what? The common solution that we're going to be talking about. And I, I used to say that this chapter was all about step one, and then I'm like, hold on, the title of the chapter says there's a solution. Yeah, we're going to be talking about it. Gets more into page 25 and etc. But I'll shut up there. I'm going on too much. All right, Paige, back to you. Pew pew pew.
Did you want to take the next
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
paragraph?
Okay.
I'll let you take it.
All right. All right. All right. All right. An illness. I mean, I guess it was pretty controversial to call it a disease back then because it wasn't medically proven. So they called it an illness. An illness of this sort, and we've come to believe it is an illness and involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him. I like that word all. I don't know why that just popped at me, Paige. Anyone know anyone who has cancer or has a physical ailment or handicap or you know autism or whatever it is? You know, you see those autism awareness month, the breast cancer awareness month, and stuff like that. You know, all are sorry for them. And it says no one, I guess that's no one, right, is angry or hurt. I don't know why the angry and hurt just popped and hit me, right? I don't know why that just hit me right now. Nobody's angry or hurt at this specific class of people, right? And why is that? Because they're suffering from something that is beyond their control. They can't control that, right? But what about the alcoholic illness? What about the drug addiction? What about the sugar? I think someone said sugar illness, whatever. Whatever. What about gambling? Why isn't there an awareness month for cocaine? Right? Cocaine awareness. Why isn't there a month dedicated to drug addicts and alcoholics? Right? Why don't we have little ribbons, little, I guess, white ribbons for cocaine or yellow ribbons for alcohol and drug awareness? Right? Why not? This is why. Next sentence, but not so with the alcoholic illness or drug addict illness. For with it, the alcoholic or drug addict illness, there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life. The alcoholic illness engulfs all, is that word all again? All whose lives touch the sufferers. We're like a blast radius. It's a ripple effect, right? Like you come across me like that's why I like what it says in the forwards, right? This program will have its advantages for all, right? That word all that includes the family, friends, co-workers. Basically, everyone around us is having a much better life because we're sober and living a different life, right? Right? But check this out. It, which is the alcoholic illness, brings misunderstanding. I like taking this statement and turning into a question. Let's do this as a group. All right. Does your alcoholic illness bring misunderstanding? Raise your hand. Does your alcoholic illness or drug addict illness bring fierce resentment? Yeah. This is drunk or sober, by the way. Eh, Does your alcoholic or drug addict illness bring financial insecurity? I got two hands up on that one. I got my foot up, but you can't really see it. It's by the pedal. Does your alcoholic illness bring disgusted friends and employers? Like, who's got that, right? I'm just, this hand's just gonna stay right here the entire time as I read this. Does your alcoholic illness have warped lives of blameless children, sad wives? I like how Bill put that in plural. Like we like to have multiples of everything, right? Right, Paige? Sad wives who like multiple partners, multiple sex partners. I did. That's two hands up on that one. And parents, anyone can increase the list at infinitum. Now, this is a little sneak peek into oh my God, I forgot the name of it. It's a sneak peek into the unmanageability of our mind, right? Or unmanageability of step one. It's also a sneak peek into self-will run riot. This also encompasses anything that when we're sober. I actually took the lay aside prayer and I put the lay aside prayer and use one of these lines. and actually use it in the morning. So like, please lay aside everything I think I know about fierce resentment, so I may have an open mind and new experience with dot 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 moving forward, or misunderstanding. Right, because I always have misunderstanding with people, or especially with my wife. Good old wife. Misunderstanding my wife. She doesn't understand. I was misunderstanding. I have to lay aside everything I think I know about misunderstanding so I can have an open mind and new experience. I recommend try it out. It's changed my recovery, especially having an open mind. Because what about disgusted friends? Eh, I'll tell you something about disgusted friends. I had no one at the end. I had open heart surgery because of cocaine and alcohol abuse. All right. I had five bypass open heart surgery. No one's ever heard me tell that story. And it was in December of 2018. Paige, take a wild guess how many people came to visit me in the hospital. Anyone got a guess? Just put a number up. I see zero. No one came to see seven. Yo, thank you. I had a friend. I say one, which is me. I'm the only friend that I had at that point. But zero people came to see me because I was such an unlovely creature to be around. Now, this could happen in recovery as well, right? If I'm continuously playing God and continuously worshiping the God of reason, my mind, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, there's all sorts of things. And Paige, I'll kick it back to you because there's a lot we could do with this paragraph, and I feel like this. Yeah, just go. I'll shut up. Pew pew.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna be little bit of a disturber of things. I am gonna say, actually, Terry, I think there was at least one not person, but there was at least somebody there with you. And that one is God, because we are people who should not survive things like that. Absolutely. And so, yeah, the foundation of what we're looking at, the cement that we're talking about, is our common problem, common solution, and common program of action. And when we put that together, and not when I put that together in theory, in idea, I do need to understand that that's what we're here to do, right? I'm here to go from the problem, physical allergy, mental obsession, and it's important to understand that what's driving this mental obsession is the spiritual malady, but it is not diagnostic of this illness because there are some spiritually sick people out there just in the world. You know what I mean? Ugh. You'll find them in traffic or shopping or however HOA, PTA, you'll find them in those places. But that is what we're going to treat. The spiritual awakening is going to treat the conscious sense of separateness from God. And how I get from that problem to that solution is our program of action. Now, when I have those, not as an idea, not as a theory, but all of those working in my life, that is my foundation. My foundation is not steps 1, 2, 3. My foundation needs to be all 12 steps as a way of life. And I emphasize that because if I don't got that, I don't got a foundation. If I don't have a foundation, there's no ground, there's no floor. I'm in free fall. It's just a matter of when I relapse, not if. And page 18, as we talk about this being an illness, I learned this as I was at Rachel's big book study a couple weeks ago. Because I talk about this being an illness, an illness, an illness, and I emphasize why, and the reason I do is because I'm a little pedantic, not a lot, just a little, and because the book says illness, the book doesn't say disease, but I'm not ever going to go out and correct anyone. But so I use the word illness, but what is the difference between an illness and a disease, and why coming out of the book we use illness and not disease? Now, to be fair, it wasn't recognized as a disease until after the book went out. That was a lot of Marty Mann doing. She was one of those bad A early women. I was watching my language, but she was kicking butt, taking names, getting alcoholism classified as a disease. Pew pew, Marty Mann. That's how it happened historically. Don't let any of the history, actually, I think all three of the history husbands are here. Don't let any of them correct this. That's how it happened. Woo. Just kicking down doors. I'm Marty Mann. What up? It's history. uh, but the difference is an illness is a report of the patient's symptoms. So pedantic's pretty rad. So me reporting on upon my symptoms. and a disease is diagnosed by a doctor. And that is such an interesting different difference because I mean, yeah, it's her story, not history. Marty, it's Marty Man's world, and we just live in it. Uh, I'm here for that. Clearly, I have the attention span of a gnat. Uh, but what were? Can I repeat that? Which part? Which part do we? Oh, probably not the attention span. Probably not the her story. Yes, absolutely. I got there. It took me a second. I just had to, reverse the train of thought. I had to play the tape to reverse. I had to be kind and please rewind. Call back to that previous tangent. Yes, absolutely. So an illness is a patient reporting on their symptoms, and like a disease is a diagnosis from a doctor. And the reason why I think that is so interesting is, I mean, who here has been told they had a problem years before we were ever willing to do anything? Who here had medical people in your life, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, really trying to like, hey, like you have a problem, you're an alcoholic. No, thank you. That doesn't mean anything. What matters is what I see in myself. When we get to page 30, we learn that step one is that I need to fully concede to my innermost self. I'm the one that's got to be convinced. I don't got to convince anyone else. I got to be convinced. And I believe that's a part of why we use the word illness. And I thought that was a fun little fact. And so when it talks about the annihilation of all things worthwhile in life, I have a little bit of a visual brain. I mean, clearly, because off I go. But I always imagine if you've ever seen like atomic bomb testing videos, those old ones, and like what is left is nothing. It is leveled to the ground. And is that my experience that that is what my illness did? It leveled to the ground to the point where you didn't even know it existed, all the things that were worthwhile in my life. And when it talks about it engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers, what are we talking about? Anyone, anyone who has any sort of contact with me can be affected by my illness and hurt by my illness. And I visualize it as that mushroom cloud that just goes and goes and goes, and it's like spreading radiation everywhere. That's what I'm like. And I often tell this story in the doctor's opinion, but for some reason I just feel called to yep, I can. Yeah, I'll repeat it again. I don't know if you're messing with me. It works though. If you're just, no, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. So an illness is me as the sick person, clearly, me as the sick person taking stock or an assessment of my symptoms. A diagnosis is a doctor saying, yo, homie, or a disease is a doctor saying, yo, homie, you got this. Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. Uh, yo, homie, you got this. That's how they're taught to speak in medical school. Uh, and that's also where they learn how to write where you can't read it. Medical school. Listen, I'm not a doctor, but I wrote a couple of my own prescriptions a time or two. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I would never. But that idea that like I don't know who my illness can truly affect. And the story that was coming to mind is I was homeless living on the streets of Calgary. I don't talk about that part of the stuff too much because that's a thing that often see you're like, oh, I wasn't homeless. I'm not as bad as Paige. It's not really about that. But I was homeless living on the streets of Calgary, and I would often live under this underpass. That there's a railway and there's a pedestrian underpass, and that's where I would, just it's not a problem. It's just urban camping. I literally told that to people when they tried to have an intervention on me. I'm like, no, I just can't. It's just urban camping. Nobody bought it, Ooh. But I remember that I was under the bridge panhandling, and like a classy lady, and there was somebody who came and she said, I was really worried about you because I hadn't seen you for a number of weeks. And keep in mind, I'm an 18-year-old child, living on like on the streets, and she was aware of what what the reality is that good things do not happen when you live that life. And she was like, I was so worried about you. Now, this is a woman who only saw me on her commute to and from work. This is a woman that I didn't remember and would just bug her for money. And she was worried about me. Do you know what I mean? Like how different the world might be if the world wrote my 8-step list. Do you know what I mean? I affected her, and I don't see that. I don't see that the depth of the effect that I have on others. And I always like to talk about the other side of the story is by that same token, I don't know the effect that my recovery can have on others as well. And there was a time that I was just a couple years ago, I was going to a speaker meeting, and we were going there, and we were on our way, and I see that there was a gentleman who had like fallen like straight back and like clearly was not okay. And also it became evident that he was one of us. I go and I like it became clear to me he wasn't super duper responsive. We should call an ambulance. So that's what we did. They came, they're like, you're good, you go. So we went to the meeting, we come out of the meeting, and he was still there. They just left him there. And I was like, the actual heck. So I go, but he was much more responsive. And I'm trying to talk to him, see, can we get you situated? Like, what do you need? How can we help? And he, said, here's my name. Like, hi, I'm so and so, shook my hand or whatever. And I shook his hand and I said, I'm Paige. And he's like, oh, I know. I know you from the meetings. Do you know what I mean? Like this a random guy. Anyway, we got him a ride to the camp where he was staying, and he actually had a brief window where he was open to go to detox, and we had somebody that was willing to go pick him up, but he didn't end up going. But just that idea that, man, I don't know who my sobriety can help, and I don't know the ripple effects that can happen by being a recovered member of whatever fellowship, not just sober, not dry, but recovered. You know what I mean? Man, that is a message of depth and weight. And so the misunderstanding, fierce resentment, disgusted friends and employers. Man, if I am relying on this power, which I do not know, I do not like, I don't believe in when I'm at this point in the book, but I'm relying on this power that I build a relationship with through these 12 steps. Man, I get to be used by God to help people. I get to be an agent of this power in the world. Like, man, it is powerful. And I promise you, I'm just a silly little crackhead who would wet her pants behind dumpsters, like a lady. And pinkies up, and I get to be of use to others. Like, that is powerful. And so we hope that this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. And there's that saying, like, our job is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Some of you know that saying, like, it's if I'm like, no, it's good, I got it. Like, I don't got nothing. I don't got nothing. We got to shake it up and see the reality of my predicament. But when somebody's hopeless, I can offer them the comfort of the solution. And I'll just go on, highly competent. And oh, actually, it says, though we hope this volume will comfort and inform those who are or who may be affected. There are many. Again, I've done some work in Al-Anon because I've needed to. Codependent as heck. And to be a member of Al-Anon, you don't even have to have met the alcoholic that you're affected by. You could be going to Al-Anon, and the alcoholic was a grandparent that you never met. But the illness of alcoholism and the pain and the suffering just carried through generations. And that's what we're up against. That's what we're up against. So it says highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss his situation without reserve. Somebody, and I hope it wasn't one of you, but somebody told the doctors and told the psychiatrists who ratted us out. Somebody told them that when an alcoholic, or they suspect there's somebody that has an alcohol problem or a drug problem, and they ask how much do you drink a week, they know. They triple it. Who told them? You know what I'm saying? Like, girl, who's giving away those secrets? And I know not you guys. I know you guys were always honest and forthright with medical professionals, especially ones that had the power to lock you up, with therapists. Oh, I didn't have the money to pay for one, but did anyone here ever pay for a therapist or a counselor or a psychiatrist and then lie to them? Like, oh, yeah, we do that. you know, we lie. And so it says, uh, have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic discussion situation without reserve. So I got my walls up, I got my mask. I'm not going to let you touch my alcoholism because I need it. I need it. And what I need is that ease and comfort it gives me. It goes on to say, strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrist and the doctor. Isn't it the thing that the people that I am closest to, they can't tell me nothing. Those are the people that the walls are the biggest with. That I got to try to keep everything a secret from. And they give me the slightest suggestion about what I need to do. Oh, I get a little reactionary. And what is interesting now, we're going to come back to this probably in a long time, but this principle, this idea that how we live from our own experience is going to carry into the later chapters. We're going to see this idea that I'm not the most open to my family and working with others. It's all over two wives. We're going to see it carry on in those later chapters. And this is who we are open to. So I'll toss it over to Terry. Who can we hear from? We can hear from Terry. Pew pew.
Thanks, Paige. I was just thinking about that. Like, I disturb a lot of people. Like, I do, and in good ways and bad ways. It's funny because if you ever anyone had a resentment before, I hope there's a couple people here, right? No, no, not me, right? I remember I had a sponsee say, "No, I don't have any resentments," and I'm like, "Well, it looks like I'm sponsoring a saint." You know? Uh, yeah, I think I've said this a long time ago. Is my job to disturb and wake up the dead. It literally is my job to wake up the dead, and there's a lot of people who are walking around asleep, uh, and 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 hitting them with disturbance. They're being disturbed. In my experience with resentment and being disturbed, and take a look at your own experience with this is when you're in resentment or being disturbed, do you remember it? Don't you remember that little instant replay in your head about what happened in that situation? It just plays over and over and over again. Um, Usually, what I found is that resentment sticks with me, and I remember it. And sooner or later, that old resentment pops up, and be like, damn, I was wrong. And I was wrong in that situation, and I hope you have that revelation as well. Um, I mean, I remember someone told me to my face that, "Hey, Terry, I'm concerned you're not a real alcoholic." And I was like, "What are you talking about, bro? Like, Bill's story's my story, blah, 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 right?" And when I drink, I get thirstier. And then afterwards, I'm like, maybe he's right. I said that to myself, like, maybe he's right. And I took that resentment and I went off on it. It gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not. I minimized it and I thought about drinking. And it got to the point where I was about to go drink and I thought about, uh-oh, it means I got to go do some work. And I did that work and I reflect back on that experience that person said to me, and it was a fierce resentment and he saved my life. He really did. I had a reservation in the back of my head that, you know what? I went to 4 rehabs when I was in high school. That was 20 years ago because of alcohol. Paige, that was a long time ago, right? Whenever you're disturbed, just kind of look at the positive aspect of that. Meaning that something is something your belief system or attitude or ideas are being hurt, threatened, or interfered with, meaning that your trouble is of your own making. If you look at that positive aspect of it, that means that there's something wrong with you. And if you look at that and you have awareness, or you pause when agitated, or pause when in doubt, and you have an awareness and you look back at it, that moment where that dude said that to me, it saved my life. Because it solidified that foundation that I talked about on page 17, right? Because I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I thought I was an addict. But um, Yeah, back to the reading. It says, but with the ex-problem drinker or drugger who has found this solution, who is properly armed with the facts about himself. Facts are basically, I mean, I took the steps. Also, I'm armed with the medical facts of alcoholism, the allergy, the obsession, the mind. Can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Yet again, that's why I don't like sharing at meetings for 20 minutes. It says in this book I'm supposed to speak for 3 hours. All right. But these are just attributes. This is, I guess, qualities of or a guide to being a good sponsor, or what to look for a sponsorship, right? Someone who it doesn't actually say the word sponsor in the big book, and Paige and Gary and Howard could kind of illuminate where that word came from. I believe they were sponsoring their beds or something like that. I don't know. You guys could chime in and talk about the why the word sponsor came. If you look up the definition, it has nothing to do with AA, but you guys could come in later. But this is good attributes for actually good sponsorship, what to look for, right? So until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing could be accomplished. Now, yet again, this is in italics, this is in scribble writing, right? I mean, basically all the words are pretty important in this book, but when they're scribbled like this, it's saying pay attention. Like pay attention, everybody, whoever is reading this, right? Yeah, I'll kick that back over to you, Paige. And guys, I do have to run. I have to go get relieve the babysitter, so I'll be off camera walking home. But this was so much fun, Paige. Thank you.
Awesome.
And
Thank
thank
you
you,
so much,
everyone.
Terry. Pew
Yeah.
pew. Yeah, and I always talk about how, like, yeah, the word sponsor not found in the first 164 pages, but the job description surely is. And really, as we get into the bottom of page 18, top of page 19, which will we get there today? I don't know. We'll find out. Ooh. But that's what I like to describe. I don't call it that. I stole it from people in Ontario province in Canada. It's full of Ontarianians. They're delightful. But this is what we call the sponsorship contract. And so it's like, this is who I need to be showing up for sponsees. And then just when Terry was referencing some of the history husbands, I don't know all. Believe me, I don't know all the things. I know very little. But I was reading, listening to VC Kitchens. I was a pagan because I am fun at parties, and nothing says who wants to hang out with Paige like Paige just get really jazzercised about old Oxford group. Oh, old Oxford group ideas. I was supposed to hype up next Thursday the Oxford group history. I forgot to put the poster in the chat. I'll do that after the meeting. Part two of the Oxford group history is going to be happening. The recording's up on YouTube. My bad, forgot about that. I have no attention span. But uh, I was reading I Was a Pagan by VC Kitchen because, again, fun. And on page 166 of that book, and I'm giving you the page number so that you can, like, you know, he spoke about the term spiritual sponsor, which I had never heard before, never seen before, not an expert on anything. So I'm just going to throw that little nugget out there and y'all do with that what you want. And if it's ignore it or be like, actually, Paige, both of those are fine. Uh, so going to the italics, right? So who am I not open to? Not open to doctors, professionals in so many cases. I'm definitely not open to hearing about this from my family. But who am I open to? It says, but the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, not a solution, this solution, the spiritual awakening that happens as the result of these 12 steps, who is properly armed with facts about himself. So I've got to be armed with facts about myself. And what does that mean? And what does that look like? Yeah, we're not going to get to that bottom paragraph. I can feel it. I feel that's happening. It's just going to let you know my limitations. And we're going to be landing the plane. Might be a rocky landing. Make sure you put your tray tables up. Uh, but we're gonna be landing probably with this paragraph. So What does it mean to be properly armed with facts about ourselves? Well, I know from my own experience what it is like to have that allergy, and I can share that with you. I know from my own experience what it is like to have that mental obsession, and I share that with you. A lot of times we talk about the cycle of alcoholism. You know what, that thing that happens when I come to and I scrape myself off, the bathroom floor, which again is me trying to be classy because usually it's behind a dumpster, like a lady. But I come to behind a dumpster missing pants, or not, well, yeah, sometimes missing pants. I was going to say missing shoes. The pants are wet, the shoes are gone, like a lady, distinguished, refined. Uh, and I say that is it. I am never going to do this again. I mean it. And I'm thrust into that conscious sense of separateness from God. And what happens is a day, a week, a month, several months down the line, I get a thought in my mind, and that thought tells me this time will be different. Nobody will ever know. You can get away with it. You're going to kill yourself anyway, so why don't you just, and boom, and off I go, and I do it again, and I burn it to the ground. And I'm able to clearly state this is what the illness is. I'm able to share this with others. And so now it's also imperative, in my opinion, it doesn't say imperative in the book, like in relation to this, but I also feel that for me, it is imperative that I be armed with facts about my experience with the solution, the spiritual awakening, and my experience with these 12 steps that I'm able to share with you. Like in the chat, people are joking about needing to write inventory. It does no good if I just say, go write inventory, but I don't show you how to do it. I need to be skilled at inventory. It does no good if I say, go make amends, but I don't show you how I made amends. Do you know what I'm saying? I got to be adept at these things. I get to be adept at these things because the more skilled I am, the more helpful and useful I am to others. And by the way, just because I know how some of your brains work, just like mine, you're probably thinking, I don't know how to do it perfectly. I better not sponsor. That's how we learn how to do it. You go do it. You go sponsor. Go work with others. Because that's how my brain works. All right. And it says, what it says can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. We'll pay thousands of dollars for therapy and counseling, but one alcoholic or one human being who is suffering from the same illness, we can understand each other. I've been where you've been. I've done what you've done. I've felt what you've felt. I've experienced the allergy the way you have. I've experienced the obsession and I've gone back to it. And I have found a way out. And until we can get there, little or nothing can be accomplished. And next week, as we dive in, we're going to talk about how we show up to sponsorship, even though it's not described in the first 164 pages, or that word is not found in the first 164 pages, but the job description is. Also, just a fun fact, that the word surrender is not found in the first 164 pages either. But how we do it certainly is. And then I had a theory. This is a theory. Feel free, history husbands, to tear apart this theory. But I have a theory that we don't use the word surrender so much in the book because surrender was so heavily used in the Oxford group. Ooh, another little nugget of historical whatever that I just threw out there for anyone to put into sweet and sour Szechuan sauce because it's like a chicken nugget. Anywho, gonna leave it on that chicken nugget. Next week we'll pick up at the bottom of page 18 and I'll stop the recording. Yep, that's this one.